Hey, what's up, guys? We're back. We're going to be doing another breakdown and predictions video this week. It's for Thiago Santos versus Jamahal Hill. It's going to be UFC Vegas 59. We're also going to figure out who's going to be the ultimate fighter for the men's heavyweights and women's flyweights as well, so that should be interesting. And we're coming off an okay week in terms of predictions and betting-wise. I really wish I would have done better on UFC 277, but we did hit the parlay of the week that I gave for you guys for the channel. We hit the most confident pick, so that was good. And yeah, man, if you're still not on the Patreon, you still don't have access to the PFL breakdowns, the Dana White Contender Series breakdowns, Bellator breakdowns, all the bets that I make, definitely make your way over there, man. Go to patreon.com/MMA Prediction Guru. We're giving out some of the best bets online available right now, and I'm having one of the best years of any capper for MMA out there. So definitely recommend you go out there. Check out patreon.com/MMA Prediction Guru for some of that additional content to try to make some money. And before we get the video started, I just want to give a big shout out to the sponsor of this video, which is CashflowMMA.com. And they're just continuing to chug along as well, man. They've been killing it. And once again, last week, they hit another parlay. It was a pretty easy one. I mean, Drew Dober went in there. He had some adversity, but he was able to get the finish in the third round. And then that Derek Lewis versus Sergey Pavlovich fight ended in the first round, so for it not to go to decision, it was a very sweat-free bet. So honestly, man, they've been doing amazing this year. CashflowMMA.com, they've been hitting their bets at a very high rate. They have a high ROI, and they're one of the best cappers in the world right now. So definitely check out CashflowMMA.com. I recommend them wholeheartedly, and I feel like, you know, if you can get people that give that type of advice, you definitely want them in your corner and you want to check them out. So go to their website, check out their packages that they have, and, you know, get in on the bets that they're giving, because they're definitely one of the best around. CashflowMMA.com. And now we're going to be getting into this first fight of the night here, which is going to be Mayra Bueno Silva taking on Stephanie Egger. And this is an intriguing fight. It's a clash of styles. This is going to be the second appearance for Mayra Bueno Silva up at 135 pounds. She's looking to make it 2 wins in a row for the first time in her UFC career. So she's been definitely an up and down fighter, but she's had some high highs. She's got 2 first-round submissions. She got a submission win over Jillian Robertson. And her losses, they've been against pretty high-level women. She lost to Manon Farrow, and that's a pretty good fighter there. And she also has a loss to Mariana Moroz, who's also a good fighter as well. And her last fight, she beat Yanan Wu, which isn't a highest-level win. I feel like she didn't look that great in that fight. So hopefully she could look a little bit better, more like herself in this one. I think it's a different matchup, probably an easier matchup on paper. Stephanie Egger, she's proved her worth as well. She lost her UFC debut, but she's won 2 fights in a row. Finished both of those opponents by submitting them in the first rounds. And her submission game in judo is what she's best known for. She was an Olympic judoka, and that's what's led to most of her victories in MMA. You know, both these fighters are flawed, but I definitely feel like Bueno Silva is the more dangerous and well-rounded fighter. She, on the feet, is significantly faster in my opinion. Both these girls are a little bit slower for the division, or I guess Mayra, it's still to be determined at 125, or at 135, but at 125 she was a little bit slow-footed. She had fast reaction time, like she could pull counter and things like that pretty well. She had, you know, fast feet moving forward and backwards. It's more when she has to go first and cut off the cage that she kind of has slower feet and that type of thing. But the thing with Stephanie Egger, she doesn't really have great footwork at all. I feel like she's not going to be easy to back up to the cage, and she's just going to be looking to grab and clinch. So her game plan is going to be pretty simple. If you look at her UFC career so far, all of the fighters that she's fought have wanted to grapple with her. You saw Tracy Cortez go right in the eye of that beast and kind of just out wrestle her, hold her down. And then Shayna Young and Jessica Rose Clark both also indulged her in that grappling, went for takedowns offensively, and ended up getting submitted. So I feel like with Mayra Bueno Silva, it's going to be a much different fight. I think Silva's going to be looking to pressure, leg kick, throw combinations, and try to back Egger against the cage and knock her out, because I feel like Egger, her reactions to getting hit, her defense when she gets backed up is not very good. I think Silva definitely could overwhelm her with strikes. Silva's strong in the clinch as well herself, so I think, you know, her getting knees, elbows going in the clinch could be an effective tactic for her also. Once Egger starts to get a little bit tired, she just has to avoid being put on her back. I feel like, you know, one thing about Silva that I don't like is when she gets put on bottom, she accepts that position and likes to look for submissions. She can be held down. She gets a little bit tired at times, and in this fight, I don't think she's in as big of danger as getting finished as some of these other girls that have been in there with Egger. I think she's a little bit more advanced on the ground than that, but she just has to avoid getting held down and losing minutes of the fight. But I don't really trust Egger's cardio. She's been able to get some, finishes in the first 2 rounds and her 2 wins in the UFC. But I feel like she definitely gets tired come to that 3rd round. Silva's a killer in the 3rd round. And I actually feel like Silva is going to get a first win streak in the UFC and get a TKO victory in this one, getting the finish. So give me Mayra Bueno Silva to get the finish via TKO here and get the job done as a slight underdog. And we got another female fight in this next one. This one is going to be at 115 pounds with Corey McKenna taking on Miranda Granger. This is a pretty low-level fight. Miranda Granger is coming back after a pretty long layoff. This is going to be her first fight of the year. Corey McKenna, she had a disappointing fight at UFC London. She went over there. She fought Elise Reed. She was a pretty decent favorite to get the job done and came up short in that one by decision. Once again, she's a big favorite in this one, over 2-1, which I don't agree with. I feel like this should be close to a pick'em fight, but I do think that the UFC is trying to get Corey McKenna a win here. Matchup wise, Corey McKenna fought a similar opponent to Granger and Vanessa Demopoulos. She was able to get the victory, but one big difference in that one versus Granger is significantly taller and longer, which Vanessa Demopoulos wasn't. Granger has a 9.5-inch reach advantage, which is pretty significant. And she's, a tough, gritty girl, Granger, but she's just not that athletic on the feet. She really struggles. She will try to throw some, jabs and 1-2s, 3-2s, but she has really slow hands. And her kicks are what actually help her out more. She'll throw, some decent kicks on the outside, but overall, I just don't really rate her striking as that dangerous. I think McKenna, even though she doesn't have the best striking either, she's a little bit faster, and if she can get on the inside, I think she could outbox Granger. Granger is pretty aggressive, and she will explode in with the 1-2s and 3-2s to try to get the clinch. And both these girls like to grapple. I mean, that's mainly where they, like to live in the fights. And Granger, she's more of a submission girl in the scrambles, whereas Corey McKenna wants to get the takedown and control on top. And I feel like Granger, she's more willing to accept bottom position, but she's also super flexible and has, those really long legs, long arms that could take the back or get sweeps in really kind of awkward positions. But I feel like McKenna, she, proved against Vanessa Demopoulos that she can handle that style fairly well. And it's just going to come down to whether, if she gets a takedown, she can control on top and do some damage with ground and pound, or if Granger's going to be able to create these weird scrambles and, throw up reverse triangles or take the back and kind of beat McKenna that way on the feed. I think McKenna will have a slight advantage, but it's, going to be tough with that huge reach disadvantage, and Granger is fairly aggressive. So, I feel like the striking could be pretty 50-50. But I think McKenna has the superior wrestling, and that's what I'm going to kind of edge the fight towards. So I'm going to go with McKenna by decision. But at those odds, I think Granger is the value side if you were to bet on it. But, I mean, probably a pass type of fight, 2 low-level fighters. But I'm going to go with Corey McKenna to bounce back and be the one to, get off that losing streak. I do think for Granger, though, I mean, this is put up or shut up for her. She's 30 years old. She's 2 losses in a row. So she's going to have to come in hard here and, go for that win. If she loses, I think she'll be cut. So she has more urgency, but I think McKenna will get the job done. And up next here, we have another fight that I feel like the line is way too wide in this one with Jason Witt versus Josh Quinlan. I think this should be a closer fight. I do think that Quinlan, is a good fighter, but you look at that experience disadvantage. Jason Witt has 27 fights, and Quinlan only has 5 fights total. This is going to be Jason Witt's 6th fight in the UFC. He already has 5 fights in the UFC alone, so that's a big advantage for him. And Jason Witt has gotten some decent wins. He has been on the wrong end of some quick knockout losses, but he did go in there and beat a guy like Bryan Barberena, which is significant. So he has a lot of experience. He's been in there with a lot of guys. I'm sure his camp is getting a huge boost off of Brandon Moreno bringing that belt home to them. So he's going to be coming in there hard, and Josh Quinlan, it's going to be his UFC debut. He has a little bit of a stigma, or I don't know the right word to say, but he has He's coming in off a win on the Dana White Contender Series, but he failed for steroids. I think it was like an antibiotic steroid, so it wasn't like he failed for like something else that was maybe a steroid. I think it was definitely a steroids. And yeah, so they got that turned into a no contest, but the UFC decided to still sign him. So technically, I guess you could say he has 6 fights. That fight was a really quick knockout win. And Josh Quinlan, you know, he's training out of I think he's out of Nevada. I don't know if he's out of Las Vegas, but he trains out in Nevada. And he's, like I said, 6-0. He fought most of his fights in the LFA. And he's a hard hitter. He's aggressive. And he has the ability to turn the lights out quickly. So Jason Witt, who's been proven susceptible to that, definitely has to be very wary early on. But Quinlan is still green. He relies heavily on leg kicks, and he attacks early and often with them, which is good to see. But his hands aren't really that great. He has power, but he more just likes to counter with big hooks, uppercuts. When fighters close the distance, he's really just trying to throw heat. And he's mainly inactive on the outside. He's a little bit wild when he decides to go first. He can be stiff, rigid. His power makes fighters not want to trade with him or close the distance. So it can lead to fights not having a lot of action before the finish. But, you know, Witt is a guy that doesn't have the best chin. But I do think he's going to be harder to hit and put out than some of Quinlan's other opponents. Quinlan, you know, I feel like he actually has better wins in the amateurs than as a pro. He beat Sarek Shields, who's a pretty good wrestler. He beat Ryder Newman, who's a good wrestler. And Quinlan does have good jiu-jitsu credentials. I believe he's a no-gi champion, and he's good at creating scrambles and ending up in top position, sweeping guys or getting back up to his feet when he gets taken down. And he's aggressive on top with big ground and pound. I haven't really seen him open up with too much of a submission game, but he does throw heavy strikes from the top position. And his cardio looks pretty good as well. So he looks like a good prospect. It's just, I feel like his takedown defense has not really been tested. I don't know how he's going to be on his back against someone that really is good at grinding out and controlling position. Is he going to be as adept at being able to sweep or get out of those bad positions that he was against lower level guys? I don't really know. And I don't know how he's going to do, you know, in a fight where he starts to really go in the wrong direction. Like if Jason Witt takes him down for 2 rounds, is he going to be able to come back in the third? I haven't really seen that from him. Most of his fights have been pretty easy. But Jason Witt, you know, he's just a grinder, man. I mean, the guy wants to close the distance, kind of have an in and out. His striking isn't terrible. He has decent speed, and he'll try to, you know, go in and out, feint the level change, and come with the big straight punches or overhands. And, you know, he has decent speed, like I said, and he has good takedown ability, so you have to respect the level changes. And when he does start to implement the takedowns, and it opens up the striking, and he has okay power. He did drop Bryan Barberena, and his cardio is really good, and he can maul you from the top position, land big ground and pound, and eventually finish you or take the decision. So that's kind of his style. But he's always had issues with heavy hitters, with explosive guys, with, you know, guys that can close that gap and catch you with one shot and put you out. And Quinlan is kind of on that level. It's just, I don't know if Quinlan is such, you know, as precise or as technical as he needs to be to land that one shot. It's going to be interesting, you know, and I feel like if he doesn't, then the fight could be super close, you know. So I feel like this fight's another one that could go either way. But I'm going to go with Quinlan. I'm going to say he catches that second round knockout, but it's just one of these fights that I think if it goes to decision, Jason Witt easily could win. And Jason Witt has a ton of experience over this guy. So Jason Witt, I think, is a pretty good underdog bet, honestly. But I'm going to still side with Josh Quinlan by knockout. I've just seen Jason Witt get touched on the chin and go down too much, and I just can't trust his chin, man. And in this next one, we got another similar fight to the fight we had last fight, where we have a very, very experienced guy, Takashi Soto, over 20 pro fights, taking on Bryan Battle, who's only 7-1. But Bryan Battle has more experience than the last guy we were talking about. He won the Ultimate Fighter. He won 2 fights in the UFC now, so he's proven himself, and he's dropping down 170 pounds, and that's pretty interesting because if you look at his amateur career, he fought at heavyweight, he fought at light heavyweight. His whole pro career, he's fought at middleweight. He's never went down to 170, so he's going to be a big guy, especially if he can make the weight safely. And you look at him in social media, you know, before he'd always been kind of a guy that he was definitely in great shape, but you could tell he had a little bit of excess body fat, and now he looks super shredded, so I feel like he probably will make the weight, and do well in terms of the scales, but we're going to see if that's going to affect his performance, positively or negatively. And I think this is a big step up in competition. I mean, you look at who Bryan Battle has been facing in the UFC. He fought Gilbert Urbina, who, I don't feel is UFC level. He had that one fight in the UFC, and that was it. And he was a replacement for Tresean Gore. He was not even the original opponent that Bryan Battle was supposed to face on that Ultimate Fighter finale show. And then he fought Tresean Gore, who has since then went and got knocked out by Cody Brunage, and Tresean Gore only had 3 or 4 fights when they fought, so very inexperienced guy. And now he's moving up to taking on Takashi Sato, so it's a big difference. I mean, on the Contender Series, Bryan Battle did get a win over Andre Petrowski, which was a good win. And he also beat a really tough guy in Cameron Lachinov, who's not really the greatest fighter, but a real tough guy with good grappling. But this is a way different matchup here with Takashi Sato, who's guy that's southpaw, great in and out movement, a guy that in his last fight fought Gunnar Nelson. I mean, think about that level of difference. You're going from taking on Gunnar Nelson to Bryan Battle. I mean, that's huge difference in experience, huge difference in skill level. And Takashi Sato, since he's came into the UFC, he's been fighting a killer's row, man. His first fight in the UFC, whether people, obviously at that point in his career he was on the way down end, but it's still a guy that I feel like is pretty similar to Bryan Battle, and a fighter that was a veteran that had, some great UFC performances. And Ben Saunders knocked him out. And then he went in there with Bilal Mohammed, who we all know now is a top 5 guy in the division. And it was a fairly close decision. I think Takashi Sato won one of the rounds. Then he came back, got a very quick, I believe sub 1 minute knockout over Jason Witt. And then his last 2 fights have been against Miguel Baeza, who since that Sato fight has not really done as good as he's hoped to have been in the UFC, but he's still a beast. And then he fought Gunnar Nelson. So, I mean, he's been fighting some really good fighters. Even outside the UFC, he fought some really good guys over there on the Japan circuit. So Sato's proven himself. And, I think this is a great matchup to see exactly where Bryan Battle is. Because Bryan Battle, you look at him, the guy's not really that technical of a fighter yet. He's still very raw, but he has a great intangibles. I mean, he's 6'1", 77-inch reach. He's going to be, very tall and lanky in this division, especially at 170. And he's just super tenacious, has great cardio, great durability, is going to pressure you and try to get in that clinch and wear you down and get you to the ground and finish you on the mat. And in his last fight against Tresean Gore, where he's fighting a guy that, it's hard to get inside on him. He has pretty good takedown defense. He was able to outstrike him with kicks and stuff like that for the majority of the fight. But I feel like with Sato, he's going to have to go back to that grappling because he's just too hittable, man. He has no hands, really. His boxing, I don't really rate it too highly. And very hittable guys. He presses forward. Even on the back foot when he lets other fighters lead the dance, he just overextends, leaves his chin right on center line, stands, straight up and down, and just super hittable guys, pretty slow. But he throws some heavy kicks. He's active. He has a great chin, and he can take your punches and return with, some big punches of his own. And eventually, like I said, in most of his fights, I think he's going to win by mauling you in the clinch, beating you up in the clinch, dirty boxing you, getting you to the ground, getting you tired, and then choking you. And with Sato, I think that's going to be easier said than done. I think Sato is a guy that controls distance really well. He has great in and out movement. He has that bladed stance. He wide stance, bounces in and out of range, hands down. Super good at sniping guys with that counter left hand, 1-2s. He's shown that he has one punch knockout power. And, Battle who's super durable. It's just going to be a battle if he could take the shots and eventually get Sato tired or force that clinch. But Sato's proven, I mean, the guy's just not a pushover to get taken down or get clinched up. He was able to give some trouble to guys like Bilal Muhammad, to guys like Gunnar Nelson, who I think are way more experienced, higher level grapplers. Bryan Battle, even though he has good clinch work and he's good on the ground, his entries to the clinch or entries to get a takedown are not really that high level. He's not a great wrestler. And I think Sato's going to get the job done in this one. I think he's going to be able to move around, counter punch, and eventually either knock out Bryan Battle or win a decision. So I'm going to go with the veteran in this one, to get the upset over the Ultimate Fighter winner and Bryan battle and pick Takashi Sato. And up next here, we got Terrance McKinney. He's making his return, taking on Eric Gonzalez. And, I mean, this line's just out of control. It's over minus 1,000 at this point, and don't really have a lot to say about this matchup. Terrance McKinney is a guy that a lot of fans like, a lot of casual fans, and, you know, a lot of hardcore fans, too. I mean, he's a good kid, and he is a guy that super explosive, goes for the kill every fight, early in the fight. All of his wins are in the first round. Most of them are within a minute. And he's proven that, you know, he's super dangerous, explosive early, and can take you out. And what more can you ask for? I mean, he goes in there and kill or be killed to the highest degree. And Eric Gonzalez, you know, he's going to oblige him in that type of fight. He's a Mexican. And you'll sit in the pocket and trade with Terrance McKinney if that's what he wants to do. And I think in the stand-up, quite honestly, the price tag is way off. I mean, yeah, McKinney could just blitz him, and he's going to be faster, more explosive, and maybe catch that chin within the first 30 seconds or something. But I think as they get into extended exchanges, and if it stays on the feet for longer periods of time, I think Eric Gonzalez, you know, has a good chin, and he can, you know, mix it up. He can box a little bit, and probably has a superior technical striking. So I feel like McKinney, I mean, just like his fight with Farziam, be smart. He should take it right to the ground, get the takedown, get the back, get the choke, and, you know, go home with $50,000 extra in your bank account, because Eric Gonzalez has proven that he's not really a great grappler. He doesn't really have great submission defense, doesn't have great takedown defense. And Terrance McKinney's a great wrestler who could get the takedown, take the back, and get the finish. If it stays on the feet, I think he could fuck around and get a quick knockout. But he also could get finished himself. His style is just so kinetic. He's very, very offensive. Offense is his defense. But when that happens and your offense fails you and your offense is your defense, you're probably getting put on your face, knocked out. So I think the smart thing to do, especially after the last fight where you went for the kill early on the feet and got yourself tired and got knocked out yourself in the first round, get that takedown, get the back, and get out of there quick. So that's what I'm going to say happens. Terrance McKinney gets takedown early, gets that first round submission victory. But, you know, I would never bet on McKinney at this line, wouldn't parlay him or anything. And I think if they stay striking, the fight's, you know, way, way closer than the line indicates. So I'm going to go with McKinney by first round submission, and hopefully he goes out there and fights smart. And into the next fight here, we got another prelim fight with Michal Oleksiejczuk. He's taking on Sam Alvey, and they got Michal as a huge favorite, and, you know, it's hard to see why not. Michal Oleksiejczuk, he is coming off a loss, but he had 2 wins in a row previous to that, and the loss to Justin Jacoby was, you know, a good loss in a way. He had a good performance in that one, even though he came up short. Sam Alvey, he is on that epic losing streak. He has only lost 3 in a row technically because he had that draw against Dong Jung mixed in there. But he has lost, or he hasn't gotten a win, I'll say that, I believe in 8 fights. And I believe his last win was also over 4 years ago. So it's been quite a while, and a lot of people always wonder, you know, how Sam Alvey stays on the roster and things like that. But he's coming back for another one. And, man, I mean, you keep throwing these guys out here over and over. Eventually, they're going to hit. So it's like, how many chances are you going to give Sam Alvey before he ends up going out there and get the win? And in this fight, I mean, honestly, I think that the line should be closer. I mean, it's hard to justify it because of the recent losing skid of Sam Alvey and just, you know, the results right in your face. But when you look at all these guys' fights, I mean, Michal Oleksiejczuk, he's a boxer. He likes to pressure guys and, you know, get in your face and box. And Sam Alvey, he's a, you know, counter striker with the big left hand. So, I mean, I think he's not going to be able to match that volume of Michal, but he's going to be looking to, you know, stay on that back foot, throw those leg kicks, and, you know, look for that big, you know, straight left hand, big overhand left, and that uppercut. And, you know, try to catch Michal with the big shot and take him out. I think Michal, isn't going to really try to mix in the takedowns on Sam. He isn't going to kick him from a distance. So it's going to be a fight where Sam is going to get the box, and he's going to get a guy coming after him. So it's going to be the type of fight that he wants. He's going to be back up at 205, or actually, no, I don't know. I saw another site have it where it's going to be at 205, which I think would, you know, favor Alvey a little bit, because I don't really like him going to 185s, but Michal, if Tapology is correct and they're dropping down to 185s, I think Neal is going to look a lot better. He's going to be in better shape. He's going to be being able to pressure. He's probably going to bring his power down. And Sam Alvey has been super durable. I mean, even those fights against Julian Marquez and all that, where he got rocked super bad, they had to choke him out to finish the fight. And when he gets hurt, he's dangerous. So it's hard to just go in there and close the show. You have to be very careful. So it's tough to get him out of there. And I'm going to say Michal wins via decision, but I wouldn't be shocked either if he knocks him out, especially with this fight. If it's at 85, I think Alvey's chin isn't as good at that weight. So I wouldn't be shocked if he knocked him out, but I'll say Michal wins by decision. It's just a fight where stylistically, I mean, Sam Alvey has a better chance to win than a lot of other fights, but I still think he'll probably come up a little bit short. And up next, man, we got a pretty badass fight right here. Two Brazilian girls who are going to go in there and throw down. And most of the time when you talk about a chick fight, you're not talking about two girls that are going to go in there and, you know, punch each other in the face till one person gets knocked out. But I think with this fight, that's exactly what's going to happen. I don't think there are going to be many backward steps. Both these girls throw heat. They're some of the more powerful girls in the weight. And yeah, we're going to see who the real queen of violence is, you know, the zombie girl or Ariane Lipski. So we'll see what happens. I mean, this is a fight, like I said, to kick off the main card. It should be a straight banger. I mean, Priscilla Cachoeira, she's finally started to get some results. She's won 3 of her last 4 fights. And, man, I mean, every one of her fights are pretty fun to watch. She's gotten blown out of the water in a couple by grapplers that I guess those are a little bit boring, where she just got controlled and stuff like that. But anytime you get her in a fight where she can keep it on the feet and strike, it's going to be fun to watch because she has that chin and she has that I don't give a fuck attitude where she's going to walk through punishment, wing bombs. You know, it's not technical, but she's able to break these girls with their pressure and then, you know, ultimately being able to weather storm and then give the shots of her own that they can't take. So Ariane Lipski is a different beast, though. I feel like Ariane Lipski is arguably the most powerful puncher in that weight class. She likes to plant her feet and throw those Muay Thai combinations. And she throws heat. She's very technical. And I don't know if Priscilla Cachoeira is going to be catching those punches on the chin and being able to keep walking forward like she has against some of these other girls. I think that if she doesn't respect that power of Lipski, which I don't see her doing, you know, unless she can, you know, take those shots too and, you know, go into that second, third round and be fresh as a daisy and break Lipski, I think Lipski's going to knock her out, man. I feel like she's finally reaching, you know, a level girl with the punching power and the, you know, want to sit in the pocket and exchange with her. And I think Lipski's more technical. And I think she's just going to ding her, man. I think she's going to knock her out, hurt her pretty bad. And, yeah, I mean, maybe Cachoeira can overwhelm her and, you know, pressure her and, you know, eventually get her tired, overwhelmed, and start to just beat her up on the feet and maybe even get her out of there in her own right. But I think Lipski is the more technical girl, the more powerful girl, and I think she's going to be able to, you know, finally be the first girl to put away Zombie Girl. So I'm going to go with Ariane Lipski here to get the win. A lot of these lines this week I feel like are too wide, and this is another one. I feel like this fight should be a little bit closer. Augusto Sakai taking on Sergey. Spivak, Sakai, almost a 2-1 underdog. Spivak, you know, at minus 210-ish. And I feel like it should be closer as well. I know Spivak is coming off a win and Sakai's coming off 3 losses in a row, but level of competition for Sakai has been much higher. And I do feel as if Sakai is a better striker by a pretty wide margin. You have Sergey Spivak, who on the feet is mobile. He has a decent head kick and a good jab, and that's about it. He doesn't like getting pressured. If you can back up to the feds, he'll kind of just stick there and allow you to throw combinations while he shows up. And if you have power and speed, he's, you know, been known to get overwhelmed and kind of just fold up. But Sakai, he's not necessarily a super powerful, speedy guy, but he has fairly technical striking, decent movement. He could strike on the front foot, on the back foot. When he backs you to the cage, he will try to throw combinations and be active. But both these guys, I feel, are a little bit on the slow side for heavyweight. And both of them do like to clinch a lot, take breaks and things like that. And I think that Sakai is the bigger, stronger guy. And that's going to be kind of the battle of the fight. Against Overeem, Sakai got taken down in the clinch with some, you know, pretty easy trips and throws. And that Spivak is a good judo player getting takedowns in the clinch. So I think that could be the difference in the fight. But if Sakai is too strong, too heavy, and stuff the takedown, stay in the clinch, control Spivak against the fence, kind of outstrike him at range by a small margin, use his size to, hold him against the cage, similar to Tybura, then I could see Sakai getting the job done. But, Spivak, he's the younger guy. He's more on the winning trajectory currently. And I'm going to say he's able to get a takedown or two in a couple rounds and dominate on top. I feel like Sakai's not good on his back, and Spivak is good with his ground and pound control when he gets to the ground. So there could be a big gap there, and Spivak could get a lot of points and a lot of momentum if he gets to the ground in one of these rounds. So I'm going to go with Spivak, but this fight, I think, once again, could go either way. Probably should be like closer to a pickup money line. So I do think the value is more on the side of Augusto Sakai. But for me, I'm going to pick Sergey Spivak via decision. And next we have one of the first of the two Ultimate Fighter finale fights with Juliana Miller taking on Brogan Walker Sanchez. And this is a good one. I mean, it's kind of a clash of styles. Both these girls do like to grapple, and I believe they both have good jiu-jitsu backgrounds. But in this fight, like Brogan Walker's two fights in the house, I think it's going to be a battle of Juliana Miller looking to get it to the ground and Brogan Walker trying to keep it on the feet and strike from a distance. Both these girls, they went 2-0 in the Ultimate Fighter. And if you look at Brogan Sanchez, she's the more experienced girl. She's fought UFC veterans, and she has 7-2 pro career before the Ultimate Fighter, whereas Juliana Miller is just 2-1. Brogan Walker is 33 years old. So I think she definitely is the fighter that needs the win. If Miller wins or loses, I think she could probably find her way in the UFC. With Brogan Walker, this may be her only opportunity here. And yeah, I mean, I was really impressed with Brogan Walker's last fight with Laura Gallardo. Her takedown defense was super excellent. She was stuffing all those takedowns really easily, and she just beat her up on the feet. And I feel like Laura Gallardo is a superior wrestler to Miller, but it's just a different fight because Miller is a more kind of tricky grappler who is long and tall, whereas Laura Gallardo was a short, compact wrestler who's going to be shooting it on the legs or trying to get in the clinch and get the body lock. Miller, she's going to be trying to, create a scramble and take the back from standing, or she'll even pull guard and then try to sweep and get on top and things like that. And Juliana Miller, one thing that she's really shown throughout her whole MMA career that she really likes to go to is those Kimuras. She has a really nice Kimura setup, and she's finished a lot of them. She finished one on the Ultimate Fighter. But Brogan Walker, I think in the stand-up has a big advantage. She has good pressure. She throws with power, nice check left hook, good straight right hand. She has, good counter ability, good timing, good accuracy. She keeps girls in the back foot. She throws some nice kicks. In this fight, I think she's going to hold shoulder kicks, kind of like she did against Gallardo, and just look to counter strike, walk down Miller, counter with punches. And Miller's a girl that's kind of just, she's a little beast. She's someone that wants to close the distance, take damage, to give damage. She'll throw some straight punches, but she's really just looking to get it to the ground or get in the clinch, get connected by any means necessary. And, even if she ends up on her back, because her takedown defense is really not high level, I don't think she minds. She's, just works up her back until she can get into a submission position or a scramble, where she could sweep and then get on top and try to finish the fight. And she's just trying to make it more of a jiu-jitsu match, and I think Brogan Walker has to make it more of a stand-up fight. I do think if Brogan Walker could get the takedown, stay on top, and stay tight, she can't control as well. So I feel like Walker has a lot more ways to victory. I feel like she's way better on the feet. She has better wrestling. And the height and aggressiveness of Miller could maybe give Walker some issues, but I also think it's going to give Walker some counter ability, counter chances. I think she's going to light her up with the counter punches. And I think Brogan Walker be able to stuff all the takedowns and get the win. So even if Miller was able to take the back or get one takedown throughout the fight, I think Walker has the skills to avoid the submission or avoid being finished and get the better of the decision either way. So I think Walker's actually going to win this fight fairly comprehensively, fairly easily. But even if she has to go through adversity, I think she has the toolbox to do it and still come out the winner. So I'm going to go with Brogan Walker to become the Ultimate Fighter. And now we have the men's final with Zach Pauga. He's taking on Mohammed Usman. This fight, I think, is a pretty low-level fight. I think Pauga is clearly better, though, when I'm looking at both these guys. Mohammed Usman obviously has that last name. He's famous for that. And, he's a decent wrestler, but his striking is really rudimentary. He just wings, overhands, real crazy shots. He is fairly athletic, and he's big. He has a long reach and things like that. So he could close the distance with maybe a straight punch occasionally and look fairly technical, but he's really just super raw, winging crazy shots, and looks very stiff. He's a little bit slow. His striking is just not there yet. Very hittable guy. Has a good chin, but he could just get clipped up as he's trying to close the distance. And his wrestling is just not really translated to MMA that well. He doesn't have fast level changes. He's not really equipped with the cardio to wrestle heavy for 3 rounds, control on top. And Zach Pauga, he's a smaller heavyweight. He used to fight at 205, but he weighs, I believe, more than Mohammed Usman did on the show, and he's kind of a shorter, compact guy for heavyweight. He's Hawaiian, and he likes to pressure forward, counter with the 3-2s. That's what he likes to do. He has good leg kicks, good 3-2s, and I feel like he's good at pressure. His takedown defense is good enough, I believe, and I believe his get-up game is good enough. He trains at elevation, so he has pretty good cardio. And I believe he's just going to look to stalk Usman, feint, fake, try to pull him into a mistake and catch him with one of those left hooks or straight right hands. And I feel like he's just a lot better fighter. So I feel like Zach Pauga is going to rip him to the body too, come back up to the head, get Usman a little bit tired. And eventually I do think he'll knock him out either in the second or third rounds. If he doesn't knock him out, I think he'll win the decision pretty easily. Usman is a tough guy. And his only 2 losses came against guys that are really tall. So this is, a matchup that he hasn't really historically lost to. But I don't think he's fought very many guys that can box and strike like Zach can. And I think he's going to struggle quite a bit with the movement and the striking. So I think Zach Pauga will be able to counter-strike his way to victory. And up next, man, this is a hell of a fight in the co-main event right here. We got Geoff Neal taking on Vincente Luque. Geoff Neal, he's coming off that big win over Santiago Ponzinibbio. He got off the schneid. It's his first win since he had that, accident or the health scare. And he's going to be taking on Vincente Luque, who's coming off his first loss in years, where he lost to Belal Muhammad by decision in a very boring fight where he just got taken down for 5 rounds in a row. I'm sure he's ready to, come back and show his trademark violence off. But man, I mean, he has a good dance partner with Geoff Neal. Both these guys are going to throw. Geoff Neal, I believe, has some advantages. I think he's faster. He has better footwork and movement. He's a southpaw. He's going to be looking to counter with that big straight left hand with the big head kick. And Vincente Luque is there to be hit. So Neal, I believe, is going to be looking to, stick and move, counter with his big punches, and primarily look to wrestle too. I think he's going to look to clinch like he did against Neil Magny. Hold Luque against the cage, get takedowns, get on top, try to control, be heavy. Because Vincente Luque, I mean, just like his last fight against Belal Muhammad and a lot of his previous losses, he's proven that he really struggles against guys that want to take him down and control him from the top position. And if you try to submit him and be aggressive in top position, then Luque is good at creating scrambles and submitting you, like we saw him submit Michael Kies with that front choke. His darts is nasty. When he hurts you, he tries to go directly for those front chokes as well. But if you just cement position, stay heavy on top, Luque will just stay on his back and get controlled. And that's what Geoff Neal is going to be looking to do. He's going to be looking to move, I think, counter with big punches. And then, mix in the grappling, mix in the clinch, mix in some takedowns, and win the fight that way. But we all know how Luque fights. I mean, the guy's just coming forward. He likes to counter with that left hook, come with the straight right hand. He'll exchange combinations in the pocket. Great counter puncher. Huge one-punch power. Both these guys have big power, but I think Luque has the power advantage. And then killer leg kicks. He just chops your legs. He is always pressuring you. He's closing the distance, switching stances. Luque can't struggle to close the gap a little bit sometimes against mobile guys. He's not really the, best guy in terms of movement. He's a little bit flat-footed. But Geoff Neal, I don't think is necessarily going to be able to move and stick and move around him. That's why I think he's going to have to mix in the wrestling to win. One thing I think that I really like with Luque in this fight is the leg kicks. We saw Santiago Ponzinibbio kind of hinder the movement against Geoff Neal a little bit with leg kicks, and Santiago is really good with leg kicks, but I think Luque is of the next level with his timing, with his precision and power with the leg kicks, and I think he's going to give Geoff Neal a lot of issues as the fight goes on with those. He could switch stances, throw leg kicks from the southpaw position as well, Luque, so that's also going to be an issue. And I think that check left hook is going to be a problem. I think Luque is the cleaner striker over time. And that's why I feel like Geoff Neal, if he wins this fight, it's going to have to be behind a lot of grappling, a lot of takedowns, a lot of control against the cage. And due to the fact that I've never seen Geoff Neal win a fight with that game plan in the UFC, I got to side towards Luque. I'm going to say they have more of a old-fashioned striking fight after Neal is unsuccessful with some takedowns, maybe gets threatened with the submission and gets a little bit, weary of the grappling. And I think by then, Luque will be able to pressure him, get him a little bit tired, get him a little bit hurt, and, demobilized with the leg kicks, and then counter him with the left hook, the straight left hands, straight right hands, whichever stance he's in, and just start to beat him up. And, eventually I think he's going to knock him out. I mean, I think Luque, we all know all of his wins are by finish in the UFC, every single one. So the guy's a bona fide finisher, and I think he's going to be able to get Geoff Neal out of there. I'll say round 3 TKO. And then finally we got the main event here, and hopefully this is a better one than Maheta's recent main events here. Maheta's last 2 fights against, or last 3, I guess, against Rakic, his fight against Johnny Walker, then the fight against Ankalaev have all been snoozers. I did love his fight when he first came back against Glover Teixeira. That was an amazing fight, but since then he hasn't really been able to replicate having, that fun of fights anymore. When he used to be, the violence king, he used to have the most knockouts in the UFC. He used to be out there going to war in all of his fights, and hopefully we could see the return of that Maheta, but it's getting kind of hard to envision that. And he's taking on a young lion with Jamahal Hill, who's a very brash guy, very confident. He's someone that you see him in the cage. I mean, he has kind of that it factor about him where, his last knockout was insane. The way he talks on the mic and, just the way that he carries himself, you could see him, potentially holding UFC gold one day. I feel like he has that kind of aura about him. And Thiago Santos, he is kind of turned into the stepping stone of the division. It's kind of hard to say that, but, he's turned into a guy like Alexander Rakic beat him. Now he's in the title picture. Mohammed Ankalaev beat him. Now he's in the title picture. Johnny Walker tried to get back against him and ended up losing. Glover Teixeira beat him, got a title shot. So, all these guys that have fought Thiago Santos have gotten right next to a title shot or actually gotten that title opportunity. So, he's been in there against the best of the best, and Jamahal Hill's definitely getting a step up. Jamahal Hill's last fight, he fought Johnny Walker, who is a good fighter, but I don't think he's on the level of some of the guys that Thiago's been fighting recently, even though Thiago also has a win over Johnny Walker in his most recent win. But he fought OSP, Paul Craig. I don't think most of these guys are on the level of these, Glover Teixeira's, Ankalaev's, Rakic's. So I feel like John Jones. I definitely feel like Thiago has seen a way higher level, and this is a big step up for Jamahal Hill. And it's an intriguing fight because I don't feel like Jamahal has fought many guys that have this blitzing style like Thiago Maheta, so it's going to be, a harder matchup. Because I did watch for Daquan Townsend. He did get dropped in that fight. He got, Townsend blitzed on him and knocked him down. And Maheta's the king of blitz attacks, man. He'll blitz forward and knock you the fuck out. And I do feel like being in that small cage hinders Maheta, his ability to blitz forward. And he was able to, catch Ankalaev, though, quite a few times. He dropped him once and kept him honest. And with Jamahal Hill, it's just going to come down to how smart Jamahal is going to take the fight. Is his cockiness going to, let him be overconfident and lose the fight like it did against Paul Craig? Because against Thiago Santos, I don't care if you think he's washed up. I don't care if you think, he lost a step. It's still the hammer, man. It's still Maheta. So you have to be very careful like all these other guys. You can't go in there and go gung-ho, come forward, get right in his face and look to exchange punches. You have to be technical, and that's what Jamahal Hill does well. He likes to use the jab. He likes to rip the body, stay long with the jabs, the 1-2s, and then he likes to counter with that left hook when you try to get over aggressive on him. And he has the long reach, long height. He has, good footwork, good mobility. He can move in and out of range, so it's hard to catch him. And, Thiago Santos, he's a lot more low volume and more one-dimensional now. I feel like he doesn't throw quite nearly as many kicks as he used to. I feel like leg kicks could be a good tool for Maheta to use, but I haven't really seen him utilize a lot of kicks since his comeback. And he's just really relegated to those blitz attacks where he just comes in with, the big hooks or the big straight punches. And it's still very dangerous, but the offense just comes few and far between. It's easier to read. And I think that Maheta's going to be very weary to close the distance because that check left hook of Jamahal Hill. I think Jamahal Hill is going to be pretty hesitant to go in there and exchange with Maheta, who's going to be looking to, blitz forward and take his head off. So I think just like a lot of Maheta's recent fights, it's going to be real low activity until either Jamahal Hill could get that check hook knockout or he wins a decision with jabs and straight punches to the body and to the head. So I'm not really expecting, a barn burner in this one. We could see a fun highlight reel type knockout. If Jamahal Hill wants to make it a barn burner, then I think everyone that has a Jamahal Hill ticket is going to be sweating their ass off and potentially, end the night mad because Jamahal Hill, he's not really a guy that I feel like is the best defensively. He does hold his hands low. His chin looks pretty high. And if you can get him on the back foot instead of pressuring you, I feel like you can maybe connect and knock him out. And Maheta's that type of guy. So we'll see what happens. I always feel like Maheta's a live underdog in any fight that he's in. But as he's starting to rack up these losses, get older and older, it's harder to, trust him or see him coming in and getting that highlight reel finish. So I'm going to go with Jamahal Hill, and I'm going to say he wins by third round check hook. But I wouldn't be surprised to see another really boring decision win in this one for Jamahal Hill, just because people do have to respect that power and explosiveness and craziness of Thiago Santos. So, yeah, man, I mean, there's my full card breakdown prediction video for this card. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys learned something from it. Really appreciate everyone that watches these videos, that, puts comments down below, that likes the video, that subscribes to the channel. So if you haven't liked the video yet, definitely like it. Let's try to get to 150 likes. If you're not subscribed, definitely subscribe to the channel. If you want to get my opinions on other organizations like Bellator, PFL, Contender Series, and things like that. If you want to get my bets, check out patreon.com/MMA Prediction Guru. And besides that, as far as my most confident pick on this card, I'm going to be going with Terrance McKinney. And for my parlay of the week, I'm going to go Zach Pauga and then the under 1.5 rounds in the McKinney fight with Eric Gonzalez. So it's going to be a parlay with those two things. It's going to be a parlay with Pauga money line and then the under 1.5 rounds in the McKinney and Gonzalez fight. So there you have it, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll be back next week breaking down the fights. I'll be putting up some videos this week on the channel, so be on the lookout for those. And besides that, I'm out.